Welcome to the Music Ed Matters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Williams Burge, and this podcast, it exists for you. Whether you're a music lover, an educator, a choir member, each week we bring guests to the show to help explore what matters in music. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Music Ed Matters podcast, episode 51, The Afterglow. That's right. You are about to hear from Conference Chair and ACDA, that's American Choral Directors Association, Vice President Dr. André Thomas, as well as President Dr. Lynne Gackle. They agreed to sit down with me just days after the first ever virtual National ACDA conference that happened this past Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I attended every concert. I've gone to all the sessions that I can possibly watch. I think I have something like 5 sessions left. Y'all, if you have not yet registered, you can still attend this conference. The materials are available to you. 37 performances, 42 interest sessions. It's amazing. And as the episode notes said, this conference set out to inspire, rejuvenate, and encourage the membership. And y'all, I'm so inspired, so rejuvenated, and so encouraged. And I hope that this really awesome conversation with Dr. Thomas and Dr. Gackle really show you the inside of this amazing organization that we get to call our professional organization. Make sure you check out acda.org and register if you haven't already, because the material is totally worth it. As always, this podcast is brought to you by the Kinnison Choral Company. Jump over to emilyburch.org/sponsors, click on the Kinnison Choral Company logo, and you too can have lots of resources at your fingertips, because who doesn't want a group of people supporting you as you dive into learning and growing and serving those humans in front of you? But I don't want to give away too much. This is a fabulous episode. Without further ado, Dr. Lynne Gackle and Dr. André Thomas, The Afterglow. Today on the Music Ed Matters podcast, we are about to unpack the National ACDA Virtual Conference with President Dr. Lynne Gackle and Vice President, Conference Chair Dr. André Thomas. Hello, my friends.
Hello.
Hello. Good to be with you.
I'm so very glad that you're here. It is an honor to be speaking to you just a matter of days after the conference, although it's not going to end. We can access it until December.
And ACDA National Office sent in our emails today a thing that people who didn't register can register, and they can have the experience from the very beginning for themselves, even later.
Perfect. I actually have the link to that in the episode notes because I think that's amazing. There is so much good information.
The way ACDA does it, the person that is the conference chair is the vice president. So I had just done the previous national conference in 2019. And so, there is a handbook of sorts, I guess, but one chooses a theme. And we have lots of volunteers that help us. And it's sort of a gamut of things that we cover from, it's primarily, not primarily, but one of the big things is performance. That's huge. And I know as a member, I've always loved to go to ACDA to hear, to watch what's going on, to hear new choirs, hear new music, and just to see the techniques. And then, of course, the interest sessions are for delving deeper into lots of different topics. Everything from, that a conductor might want to know to a singer, scientifically, community, you name it. So the themes for my conference were very different, obviously, than for Dr. Thomas. And it happened to be our 60th anniversary, so I thought that's a no-brainer. That's going to be part of it. So legacy was one, and the other is, to me, at the essence of what we do, in that we're part of a community. And so those were the two theories the two themes that I was working toward. However, Dr. Thomas got the opportunity to change a couple of times because many things occurred in that 2-year period that really influenced, and I'll let him talk a little bit about that. But he took a different route a couple of times. What he did was nothing short of miraculous, because in essence, he was really going down a path for one conference that shifted right in the middle. And so I'll let him talk to you a little bit about that. So, André.
Well, welcome to the pandemic.
Right in the middle, right? That happened right after 1 year.
Right in the middle. We successfully made our trips to Dallas and had everything signed with the Dallas Symphony, visited the halls, visited all of the rooms. All the committee members were there. Michelle and Peter got to see the hotels where the honor choirs would have taken place and how much space there was, all those kinds of things that one has to think about. And then the pandemic hit, and then the decision we finally were brave enough to make in August that we were going to have, that this convention was going to be a virtual one. And then that started a whole new idea of planning. First, contacting everyone, seeing if they're going to consent to stay on with us. Um, that we were now virtual, and we were lucky. Almost everyone decided to stay with us.
So
Um,
this includes like performing, and so that's a question. When did the performing ensembles and the presenters, when did they know they'd been selected?
um, they were notified that they were selected. I'm trying to remember exactly what the day was, the month
It's
was.
a lot to remember, I'm assuming.
Um,
I think it was
Actually,
June.
Emily, I can't
Wasn't
remember.
it?
June,
Wasn't it
maybe.
June?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that they
June.
were all notified that they would be performing, and they all returned that they wanted to perform. And then we had to write them again and say, this is going to be different. We're going to be doing a virtual conference, and then we had to determine what length of time, how long can people be engaged, um,
Mm-hmm.
and how much variety must appear to keep them engaged. And so then it meant that the performing time was going to be different. And so we had to notify the performing choirs that the audition performing choirs, that your session will only be 15 minutes instead of 25 minutes. And we thought having 45 minutes, people, and something different every 15 minutes would keep the viewer more engaged to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually worked. We only lost one choir that decided they didn't want to participate in that kind of event, but all the others said sure, and they did it.
They
And there was
really
so
did.
much variety and creativity.
Yeah,
Um,
It was, I
it
watched every concert,
Yeah,
every single
I
one.
did too. I
it was
what
amazing.
obviously,
Absolutely amazing.
and it just gave me so much joy to think how creative our people are. Choral
Mm-hmm.
musicians are incredible in thinking and reinventing the bus.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because we're always asked to reinvent the bus, but they really rose to the occasion. And the membership, I'll say this without a doubt. Um, One of the things that is so important, because we have a community,
Mm-hmm.
and how can we look at that community problem, that when people come to the conference so they can see and talk to people, and students come so they can meet their future place to go study. I mean, it's it's we're very social beings, and without that, I thought people are going to go no. So we put the chats in every place, and they made up for being not
The
being social.
chat was so cool. During the concert, seeing
I
everyone
mean,
engaged
it
Yeah,
was amazing. And to have the conductors on the chat and
and the
getting
composers.
and the composers, it gave for the performers, an immediate response.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was so proud of in the chats, because I watch the chats very carefully, because we want to know if somebody's on there doing something inappropriate or whatever. But um, I was amazed how positive they were.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes at a conference, people are not so positive, when you hear the
Mm-hmm.
chatter in the hallway about this, that, and the other. But the chatter on the chat was incredible.
It
it
was
was
And
so
uplifting.
uplifting.
Yeah, it was
yes,
uplifting, and just people supportive of one another. And I think that was the neat thing for me to read, and it was in the moment. Um, it was almost like being there, truly, and maybe a little bit even. There was a good part of it because the composer was there, and you could chat in real time, and so it was a kind of a very different thing, but so engaging. I really think it
well,
was. I mean, it was fun.
And
That's
the
I loved one.
conductors, I mean, the conductors got to read it as it was happening,
as happened.
Yes.
which, and they responded to things. How did you do this? I mean, I think I wrote to Sandy Babb, how did you get that sound 12 feet apart outside? She said, oops. we had recorded, part of it, and
But you
then
had to be
the
using a
second number.
drone.
Right.
Yeah,
There was so
absolutely.
it was
Absolutely.
amazing to see all of the interactions. I found myself on Thursday just immersed in the conversations. I didn't move all day.
No,
And
I didn't.
then I was so excited just to be, I didn't realize how empty my cup was and
Yes.
how much I needed to fill it back up until it started getting filled. And sitting through that first concert, I think I had my jaw on the ground. Portland, Ethan
Yes.
Sperry, the energy
Mm.
came out of the computer screen and smacked me in the face. And those ideas that, oh, it was amazing. What was
I
the,
think you hit on something that I heard consistently, and that is we needed this. I didn't know how much I needed this. I heard that from many different places, many different
Mhm.
sources. And I think that's how I felt. I know I was engaged in the Pathable platform this summer through TCDA. And that's exactly how I felt this summer, but it was even more so with ACDA because I know what those conferences are like from the standpoint of community and just to be there. Nobody knew how much they really needed this, and I think that was
No, not at all. And for some people, we're hesitant because everybody's tired of Zooming. As your students are tired of
Mm-hmm.
Zooming. Do I want to spend 3 days Zooming again? But the funny thing is, once somebody got on, they were hooked. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
deep.
I
they
wanted
were
to be
hooked.
right there live on time so I wouldn't miss a single conversation. I think about, was it Marcus Garrett's session? It was Marcus
Yeah.
and Brandon and that whole panel of composers. I think I took 5 or 6 pages of notes during that session as Dr. Brown gave us the definition of gospel music and spiritual people. But
that
it was
was that
so
was a
cool.
wonderful. There were so many wonderful, the
Mm-hmm.
variety of
Yes.
the
Yeah.
intercessions. And you can't. How can I say? You can't really take credit. The credit is the ingenuity of the membership.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the credit is, and they embrace that theme like
Mm-hmm.
nobody else. I mean, in those intercessions, you could clearly see it. In the performances, you
Mm-hmm.
could clearly see it, and you think you learn.
When and how
Um,
did you pick the theme? When was the theme in your mind? Where did it come from?
necessity.
Necessity. The mother of
Good.
adventure, of invention,
the
necessity.
necessity. I looked. Lynn had the legacy. And I thought, how do you follow legacy? And the thought is just keep living. It's going to come to you like really quickly here. And bam, it did.
Mm.
Because of what we were dealing with. We were dealing with Dallas, and we were dealing with the states, some of the states that were on the list of 10 where funds could not be spent was Texas. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, we don't really get a choice of where our conferences are when we take over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't
Really?
get to go and say, okay, I want to pick Cincinnati. I want to pick this. We didn't get that choice. I,
That that's all done at least years in advance, and
Really?
yeah, and we work with a corporation by the name of Helms Briscoe, and they that's all they do is conference planning, and so this has been really helpful to ACDA. However, contracts and things like that are signed well before. For instance, André stepped into his role before I stepped into my role, and so those are done years out, and people don't realize that. And of
Mm-mm.
course, it's based on what's going to be most advantageous for our membership from the standpoint of cost and certainly the first thing is going to be what venues are there, because we want to showcase our choirs in wonderful beautiful venues, and of course Dallas certainly has that, and then to find hotel rates that are amenable to our people, and to have a place where people can get to easily. And there's all sorts of variables that are looked at in choosing a place like that, but that was already pre-chosen
That was,
for Dr. Thomas.
yeah, Dr. Gackle's right. That, and what incentives the cities give when they, are courting Helms Briscoe for us, makes an extreme difference. And our people are used to a big major work and symphonic work. And of course, we had to restructure all of that when we went virtual, because there was no big symphonic work. There was no Dallas Symphony to call on. We couldn't have the Dallas Symphony Chorus. We couldn't have Simon Halsey conducting Belshazzar's Feast, but we could have Simon Halsey doing an incredible intercession. That was really educational. We were all sitting there, all of us old guys going, I wish I had this be the 10th time before I had conducted the Brahms Requiem. I mean, it was just, and that's the way I felt at everything. I mean, I looked at Felissa Barber, besides just going, yay, I'm so proud of you.
Such a good session, too.
Such scholarly information, just to think, wow, these people really did their homework. They just didn't come and sort of, bull their way through a session.
Right.
They did their homework, and yes, very much so, very much
over and over again. So, was the big symphonic thing the hardest part of pivoting to virtual? What would be the hardest part looking back?
Well, that wasn't the hardest part, because that was just a flat no.
Oh, okay.
That's just an easy decision. No. That was gone, because Dallas was shut down, and how are we going to we had 4 or 5 colleges that were going together to do Belshazzar's Feast. That was gone.
You mean you didn't toy with having a massive virtual choir of Belshazzar's Feast? That's a joke. I love when Eric Whitaker apologized for virtual choirs, by the way.
That was good.
Highlight moment.
Yeah. He, speaking of Eric and our other keynote speakers, that was the other thing that we don't have normally in our conferences, that people sorely needed and really appreciated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed, each one of those statements, we're going to reprint those, and I think are they already up on YouTube?
I think they're up on YouTube. There's a link for them.
I'll put them in the episode notes.
Each one so different and yet so necessary, and just touched everybody. I mean, it was just, and it was amazing the theme that ran through all of them. It was really a gift. Each one of them a gift.
And that's something that we were fine. It was our first. It was our first virtual conference. We really didn't know what we were doing. We were doing the very best we could, and it's kind of the things that God takes care of fools and babies. Well, at this time, and call directors. I mean, seriously, and how that all worked out with the 4 of them, because they are 4 very different individuals, and we selected them because they were 4 different individuals that kind of represent our constituency. I knew when we got the results of the audition choirs, as we were thinking about balancing them up, we had been thinking about our public school teachers who say, is ACDA a place for me, or will I hear any middle school choirs? Well,
you did.
We answered it. We answered it with some incredibly fine middle school choirs, which were inspirational for them. And the children opened us up,
Right.
That opening scene of the landscape of Wyoming, and then the children coming in there. And then at the end, I was telling Dr. Gackle, I guess I've been telling everybody, I was a mess. Everything about things happened just affected me in a really personal way, and then when the children got to the last number, we'd seen them doing we saw the beauty of Wyoming, and then we saw them in the church with their little mask on. You see this little 3-foot person standing up there with the mask almost covering the whole face, singing. It just, all of
Mhm.
those things, and they reminded us, and everybody did this to an extent in all the performances. They reminded us that yes, we are in this condition, and yes, we're going to make music in this circumstance. It's going to happen
Mhm.
one way or another. um, it was thrilling.
Mhm.
Now we've set a precedent, and people are going, oh, wow, is ACDA going to allow for visuals for the 2023 convention? Are we going to have choirs emerging out of and the
Yeah.
mountaintops? And, you know,
That's a question. What do you
yeah.
think's going to change moving forward now that you've had this vastly? Do you think like, I mean, are sessions going to be live streamed? Can people come to conferences and not have to try? Like, what do you
we
see
don't
being?
we don't know, but a lot of those ideas are being put forth as possibilities, because it's the membership sort of determines,
Right.
and they're saying, we had a number of people who were able to come to the national convention that would never be able to come to the um, a live in-person convention.
Mhm.
Primarily we're talking about cost.
I
Right.
agree.
you know
Travel, hotel,
Travel,
dining.
hotel,
Right.
dining, food,
Everything.
all of that, and all of us, and wardrobes for people that have to dress a certain way for the ACDA convention. People
You
could
calling
be in
out the
their
people who peacock? Are you calling out the peacocks? You are calling them out.
and they could attend this convention in their pajamas, at
That's
least
right.
at least on the bottom part. We've gotten good at that,
That's
because
right.
if
We've
they
all
went
got
into one of those live sessions, whoops.
whoops.
Uh
Don't stand up. Don't stand up.
oh.
I have to
Okay,
say
that's
that
interesting.
we always when we invite our choirs to come, they come on stage, and I think this came out in our little
Yeah.
post conference meeting, how we invite people to come out of their environment and into our environment, be it whatever venue that is in whatever city. But the thing that was amazing about this is that we got the opportunity to go into their environment. We
Mhm.
saw them interact in their space and in their time, and I think that was kind of neat, especially in a conference where the theme is diversity. Everyone has a different voice that's impacted by where they come from, and just everything around them, and we got a little glimpse of that. That was very, very special, and it was unexpected, I suppose.
I think
Mhm.
sort of the hidden people behind the scenes that we aren't talking about, as it relates to the choirs, are the audition committees. The
Mm.
audition committees this time gave us a kaleidoscope of tonal color.
For sure.
Yes. Yes.
We got to see that broad base of, not just one little sound. We got to see
Mm-mm.
that broad base of the tonal color, and we got to appreciate it and embrace it. And that was neat, as it came to us from, all over the United States.
Hmm.
Your committee they deserve so much gratitude and appreciation
Well, they
for
do.
their
They
time.
they oh, the amount of time that people give to ACDA is amazing.
It
You
is. I
know,
mean, it's so
we
true.
are volunteers. That's Everybody's a volunteer. We don't get paid for this. Now the office staff does, but they went well beyond. I remember writing a note just yesterday saying, Brent and Scott,
Stop.
particularly
Yeah.
the IT guys, and Mark Boyle, who came on, and his
In the
committee.
middle.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, he came on to really help with the uploading and all of that. Um, that's free. I
Hmm.
mean, if we had to pay for all the services that happen, we couldn't do
I
that.
couldn't do that. No.
How did you pick Pathable?
Well, we looked at several platforms, and as we looked at the platforms, and of course, as Dr. Gackle is saying, I attended TCDA, and I saw the Pathable, you know, and there was somebody there. We could talk to Thomas Wren, and we could talk to, we could get feedback on what the glitches were in Pathable. It's almost kind of like we had an old friend, we had another, and also
Yeah.
Okay.
cost. And we knew that we hoped, we prayed that we would have a large number of people joining us. So we had to build a network that could handle that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What was your final count of attendees, registered attendees?
3,563.
That's beautiful.
Isn't that
I
awesome?
signed up on the first day. I was so excited to see what you were going to do. I was along for the ride. I'm like, let's see what happens.
We were excited to see too.
you were in the crew that on the 10th of January I saw 463 people registered for the conference, and I'm going, oh my God!
Oh, boy.
We were just letting you know. We were voting for you.
I'm going, I am leading ACDA down the path of destruction. And then after the 28th, the next morning I talked to Tesfa. He says, well, how was the outcome? And I said, we have 1,000. We have 1,000 people registered. He was going, oh yay, Doc, that's great. And I'm thinking, and I thought it was great until I thought,
Now what?
We're in trouble. What is going to happen now? And the membership just pulled. The other thing that we have to talk about too is that we lost the honor choirs.
Yeah. But you did make a mentorship, a National Student Leadership Academy.
Which was brilliant. It really was. Peter Persino and Michelle Dindette put that together, and I was fortunate enough to be able to go in that for a little while, Anton Armstrong and I, and it was so neat to visit with those young people, and I think that the energy level on that was just great. Kelly Miller did a great job, and Whitaker came in, Eric came and talked to them. I mean, and many more people too, but what a great idea. And those kids were truly engaged in that. Those are those kids that have done ACDA honor choirs since they were 6. And it was like, what do you mean I'm not going to be in an ACDA honor choir? So this was an offering for them. And that was totally a brainchild of theirs that just sort of came boom. And it was awesome.
We knew we had to do something. We had received a couple of letters from teachers who were saying, okay, what are you going to do? Because every year I have brought kids to the honor choir, and is ACDA just going to ignore that? And when Peter, I think it was Peter's original idea.
But the two of them together is pretty.
Thought, okay. Then they came back to us and we said, sure. Do you think it'll work? And the honor choir clinicians all went in to be able to talk to them. So if they were going to be in the children's group, because we decided we probably should do 8th grade on up, and that they still got to see Fernando, they still got to see Eugene. I popped in at the time Eugene Rogers was in action, and he was dancing and singing some, I don't know what the tune was. It's one of those social justice tunes, and he's rocking and going, and you can see the kids on the set just rocking. It was like, okay,
it's working.
It's working. It's really working, And so from the leadership standpoint, all we can express is gratitude, because everybody stepped up to the plate and just simply decided.
I'm also very grateful, speaking on behalf of the membership. It's like you said, we're all volunteers. We do this because we love ACDA and our choral arts. Can I ask a question comparing something between the two of you? The difference of how do you know the conference was successful? So, Dr. Gackle, what did you do after your in-person conference versus Dr. Thomas, what did you do after this virtual conference? And what were your measurements of success and what we're going to carry through to the next thing?
Sure. I think one of the measurements for me was the number of people that actually came. Certainly the comments that were made. I believe we actually did a little follow up after that. It was something that you could actually pick up at the conference and complete. So that was some sort of measurement there. But I think the overall thing was just there's a vibe. There's people, and of course we had the ability to be in person. You'd see people on the street and they were talking with each other, and they were like, you could just tell they were enjoying being with each other, and they were enjoying what was happening in the buzz. I remember after the Aeolians sang at that conference, everybody went nuts. I mean,
Everything is
people
exploded.
will be talking about that. And if, I've been a member of ACDA a long time, and I can remember back, when the Toronto Children's Choir sang at a conference and just blew everybody away, and we're all weeping. And then there was Paul Solomonovich with the men's group from Loyola. I mean, those are little pinnacle moments, and there's so many more, and I won't even start to say those, but so many moments like that stand out in your memory, and you just go, oh yeah. And well, you feel that, and that Aeolian group was one of those moments. I think that this conference also had that, and I'll let Dr. Thomas expound on this, but it was in the chat. We find ways to connect with each other. We were created to be a community. We were not created to be alone. And I think the fact that we're choral musicians, and that's the essence of what we do anyway. So we find ways. If somebody says no, you can't do that, well, you go, okay, I'll try this way. All right, I'll try that way. And I think that's where the resiliency, the creativity, just comes into it. But those were our measures. Those aha moments, those take it away. And I'll remember that forever. Whatever that was, it could have been in an interest session. It could have been in the performances, whatever. For me, it was the whole thing. And I'll never forget with my conference, and not just because he's on here, but I'll never forget the Alzheimer's stories was something that Dr. Thomas agreed to bring the whole Tallahassee Community Choir and do. And I sat there and I was like ugly crying because my mother has Alzheimer's. It was so moving to me. I tear up even now to think about it. But it was one of those moments that I will never forget because of what it spoke to my heart, and it gave me a place to grieve a little bit, and a feeling through the music that others had gone where I was. It was really quite a moment, and those are the types of things that happen in every ACDA conference. So I know, Dr. Thomas, you have other measures and things to say too, but I think that there's a lot of commonality in what you're going to say with what I just
absolutely. You got to remember, when I'm thinking about Lynn's conference, I was at that point vice president, of course, and I think most people know Lynn is my friend. So there's this sort of you have your fingers and your toes crossed about, okay, this has got to go. This has got to go. This has got to happen. And so I felt the relief of that, and then being able to go over to see the legacy choir.
Oh my.
Conducted by the people in our lifetime that are still here.
Yeah.
That are able to conduct those choirs. Albert was what, 98? Because I think he's 100 now. That when he was getting up to conduct the choir, and just sort of this whole generation of choral conductors that were sitting there, being a part of that, getting to see our legacy, because we soon forget where we've come from. We soon forget the people and the musicians who've given their life to this organization, as well as making beautiful music. And to have Del Worland, Charlene Archibald on the same stage with Don Newen and Rod Eichenberger, and it was just like, and Albert McNeil. It was just like,
Feely,
hey,
the works.
You name it,
Very
and so it's one of those things where it goes beyond the music. It goes past it, and to see what that is all about. For me, in this conference, every Monday, Brent Baldwick would send me an email about registration. Okay, so every Monday I would brace myself for that email that would come with registration for this conference. And so, and I remember that Monday when he sent the fact, because originally in our budget, we hoped to have, our ideal budget is that we came in with 3,000 people. And that Monday when we got to 3,000, there was a Pentecostal meeting happening in Jacksonville. I mean, it was like, you cannot believe, 3,000. Oh my gosh, I'm just clapping away. They said, but it's not over yet, and then we're going again, And of course, with my own network of people and then so many of, former students, everybody's putting things on. You can still register. I mean, everybody's Facebook page, I think, has something on it to say, come on, register. Before this man jumps off the 12th floor. But and then when we reached 3,500, I was like, oh, So the amount of participation was a measure, and we talked about it. And I think I think watching it in action, where to get, when we're in person, you get feedback from the people that pass you to talk to you, And sometimes when you're in person, you think everybody in the world is talking to you at one time, But this time, everybody there could talk to you at one time.
And you could read it.
and we could read it. And so that instant feedback, we got.
I feel like there's a research study happening here. Like,
Yeah.
there's got to be someone who digs into this instant feedback.
Well, you know how we are. I'm sure there'll be some sort of study that
someone's ideas are sparking at the moment.
And it is a study that probably at some point in time might need to be embraced about this conference, but about our conferences in general. That what are happening. And yes, we speak of this, like, I remember Solomonovich coming out and doing those cowboy songs, and I can't believe he's going to sing cowboy songs.
I remember that.
It was just like, whoa,
blew everybody
that happened. But for everybody, it's always a different thing. The very first time, we're talking about the Aeolians now because they're fresh in our minds. But I remember the very first time that the Moses Hogan chorale appeared at the National Convention. It was so changing.
The buzz. I mean, people were just talking.
The buzz, but but I remember all of the little things, some things that maybe weren't the buzz, that were the buzz for some people, There are lots of little buzzes that happen, and we never know how life treats us, what we do and how it affects. I mean, I got a note from John Culpepper, who was the conductor of the Dallas Chamber Choir. I had no idea what Welcome to Dallas was going to be like virtually. Okay, what is this going to be like? And John Culpepper. I thought, I don't know this man, but I've heard his choir. I think it'll be great, that we have a chamber choir, because we wanted to show the diversity of Dallas. Dallas is not just one thing. And of course, we would have shown it even more if we'd had the Dallas Symphony. But then for him to post a picture of he and his two friends at TMEA, because he said, I really wasn't a musician, but my friends were at TMEA, and he was in the TMEA choir I conducted that many years ago.
Wow.
Never knew. You just don't know. You have no idea. And that's why it's so important that while we're at these conferences, and what we do is to remember that child, that student, that person, will be the next person. Will be, you just never know. And the shy little kid sitting over there, if you see this picture of him, I mean, he doesn't look highly aggressive now, but you see this little Oriental kid who's sitting here going, is this the person? And Clark Joseph and the gospel choir, Lord, they gave it to us raw. They said, all right, You want gospel music? We're going to give you real stuff. It is not going to be watered. It is going to be us.
It was so good.
And they went and Turtle Creek, you know.
Gorgeous. Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing for us is because of the theme and because of the collaboration concert, you know, of saying, okay, we're going to collaborate with Gala.
I loved it.
We're going to do this. We're going to have a collaboration concert. And we had lots of healing to do as it relates to that, but they did a beautiful job. It turned out perfectly. You know, and we even had discussions about the last number, and we thought, no, that last number has to be there because it has to say, this is who we are, you know. I will probably carry the theme of this conference even more so than the individual performances with me for a lifetime. And when people, Robert Summer and April Summer wrote me, and one of the things that was really clear, they said the theme was really present for us, you know. And these are the intercessions were great, sometimes a little bit uncomfortable, you know, and what they were challenging, you know, but they were informative and great. And if we do nothing else, we must pause to help people think, reflect, and move on. And that's what this virtual conference was. It is our transition. It is simply our transition. And that's the success of it. I mean, I think it's the transition, you know. And then where are we going to go? We have just said who we are, how inclusive, what we are, you know. What is it about our music, our, you know, age differences, you know, because you know, there are lots of people who have biases against old people. You know, can old people sing? Heck yes, old people can sing. You know, we need to be able to see all of that and then lead our next generation. You know, I mean, it is your generation. I mean, we we are serving on the end of. You're going to have a legacy choir where Lynne Gackle and André Thomas are going to roll on stage. And
you better. I'll find you. I'll bring you up on that stage.
I can sooner than later, but
it is an honor to follow the path that has been blazed before us. That's something I talk about a lot with my colleagues, is how thankful we are that this path has been blazed. And I think what you said is perfect. This is our transition. Let's see what we do with this.
I think it is a transition. Oddly, that we come out of a pandemic to do that, but sometimes it takes something that takes you down to your deepest core and shakes you, that causes change to really be affected. There was a comment somebody made. It says COVID-19 made this conference memorable for all the wrong reasons, but this conference itself, ACDA, made it unforgettable for all the right reasons. I really liked that comment because I think all of us were in the same place this summer. How many phone calls did we have? Dr. Thomas, I remember I'd go walking because that's the only time I could get out of the house. And we'd be talking on the phone, you know, and where are we going from this? You know, it's just like, oh, and we were all in the same place. And then this happened, and now we see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and we do see a transition. We do, you know, the R&R, I have to give a shout out to all the R&R people that helped as far as organizing, reviewing all the intercessions, reviewing even the choirs themselves. There's so many people. This steering committee that Dr. Thomas has, I know them intimately because 99% of them were also with me in Kansas City. Thank goodness. Thank the Lord for that. But there's also a whole bunch of people that also support all of this, in addition to the glue of the national office. So I just have to say, you know, we are in a transition mode, and no telling what this is going to look like. I think our membership will tell us what they need, what they want from this organization, and you will be the trailblazers to take this into that next level.
I think we will be held accountable. You know, if you go out and you preach something, okay, then people are going to expect you to
better act
be
on it.
accountable about it.
Right.
And we have shown our face.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have shown who we are, both our past and our present. You know, and if we say this is us, which we've been trying to say forever, this is us. You know, um, we will have an obligation to lead that forward.
Indeed.
I feel like you definitely upheld the three pentacles that were on the website. Be inspired, be encouraged, be rejuvenated. I feel like those were so vivid throughout. I always let the guests on the podcast share one thing that matters. I think you guys have shared a plethora of things and continued the inspiration. But is there, for the listener listening, they're about to walk into their classroom, their rehearsal, their other job, for the musicians that are listening, what's the one thing you want them to really walk away hearing?
Well, I think for me, the thing that popped in my mind is the fact that we are not alone. We're all together. There's a commonality among us. We've celebrated diversity and we continue to do it. But when you get right down to it, and I think Anton Armstrong spoke so eloquently about this, the things that draw us together, it is the music that brings us together. What keeps us together is that common thread of who we are as human beings. Um, and I think that you're right, Dr. Thomas. You know, we've shown our face. We have to move forward in this together. We've thought we have, but we all change is constant with us. You know, growth, I've read, is optional. Change is ever present, and I think that through this change, we have grown immensely, and we'll continue to grow, and that's a very good thing. But we are together. You're not alone, and no one, no whether no matter where our area of work lies, whether that's with young children, church, college, whatever, community, um, we all have the same goals in mind, and that is to change lives through the power of music, the power of the words, and to provide a place of belonging. And that's kind of where I guess the older I get and the more I do this, those are the things that mean the most to me. And so that's what I'd like to leave.
I think, Lynn said it basically, but I think it was present in Anton's speech too, as he talked about Helen Kemp, and it's the matter of servanthood. We are servant leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Is what we are, and that we are not people striving for ego attention. We are servant leaders, and that and we lead that servant leadership through music.
Mm-hmm.
It is through music that music is that tool that allows that, and that we should never forget that we have an obligation every time we step in front of an ensemble.
Yes.
You know, if if it's a little middle school here, I will never forget years ago when I first came to Florida. Mark Scott had invited me over to do this what was supposed to be a festival that turned out to be about 20 kids
Those
at
are the
his middle
best.
school, and I walked in and I looked at those children and I thought, uh-oh, let me go out and get stuff out of my car. Let's see what we can do here. You know, that is what we have to say to our entire membership, that it is those lives of those people that we work are the most important.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. It's the people.
It is.
Thank you so much for sharing and for giving time to spend time together. I've been looking so forward to this. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And you are so welcome. And we are looking forward to what will happen with the advocacy committee.
Yes.
Thank you. I hope you feel so inspired and rejuvenated and encouraged. You are doing wonderful things, my friend. We all are servant leaders with such responsibility and such an honor to stand in front of these ensembles, whether, like Dr. Thomas said, it's 20 middle schoolers or a few first graders, or if it's the most elite ensemble. We are servant leaders that have so much to do to serve our people as we create beauty, as we create community, as we inspire change, as we get uncomfortable. That was one of my favorite parts of this conversation. Speaking of which, I'd love to know your favorite part of the conversation. Jump over and join the conversation, patreon.com/musicedmatters. But really, go attend the sessions, go listen to the choirs. Let me know what you're thinking. There's a quote that we didn't say in this episode, but it keeps coming back to me. You can choose to suffocate in your comfort zone or move outside of your comfort zone and get uncomfortable. Only when you get uncomfortable, only when you push yourself to dig deeper into the research, to listen to those amazing ensembles and find inspiration, to find the positive, will great and amazing things happen. But don't worry, like Dr. Gackle said, you're not in this by yourself. So in case no one has told you, I'm telling you right now, my friend, you matter. We all know that music matters, especially all of the music and interest sessions that just happened at the ACDA National Virtual Convention. And I'll see you next time on the Music Ed Matters podcast. Thanks for listening.